Belshazzar the king held a great feast for 1,000 of his nobles, and he was drinking wine in the presence of the 1,000. He gave orders to bring the gold and silver vessels which Nebuchadnezzar, his father, had taken out of the temple which was in Jerusalem, so that the king and his nobles, his wives and his concubines, might drink from them. It was a big mistake. It cost him his life. We are in the middle of a series of 6 video installments on feeding your mind with what is true and keeping your sanity in times of uncertainty. As I mentioned in part 3 of this series, you are in for a treat. I'm so excited about what we'll learn today that I can hardly contain myself. The most important revelation given to Daniel, which pertains to our time, is about to unfold before our eyes. It's a prophecy that caused much debate and controversy. Yes, the road is going to be bumpy. For the novice and the unexperienced, the first horseback riding can be painful. You know what I mean. I challenge you, though, to stay on the course. The ride is going to be worth it. So they brought the gold vessels that had been taken out of the temple, which was in Jerusalem. They drank the wine and praised the gods of gold, silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone. Suddenly, a hand emerged out of nowhere and began writing on the plaster of the wall in the king's palace. The writing on the wall was his death sentence. That same night, Belshazzar, the Babylonian king, was slain. Darius the Mede received the kingdom, and a new era had just started. The great Babylon, the head of gold, was over. Daniel witnessed this transfer of power. The divine revelation given to him years earlier was coming true before his eyes. Daniel is now in his 80s. The Medo-Persian Empire has just begun, the breast and the arms of silver, a kingdom that was inferior to Babylon in terms of splendor and majesty. Daniel knew that the captivity of his people, the Jews, was almost over, so he went to consult with the writings of another prophet, his contemporary, by the name of Jeremiah. As he was reading this ancient manuscript and seeking to understand, he poured out his heart to God. He confessed and asked forgiveness for the unfaithful deeds his people committed. While he was speaking in prayer, the angel Gabriel came to him to bring a message so Daniel may gain understanding on this vision. What was the vision about? Let's take a look. Verse 24. 70 weeks have been decreed for your people and your holy city, to finish the transgression, to make an end of sin, to make atonement for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy place. So you ought to know and discern that from the issuing of a decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince, there will be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. It will be built again with pleasant mode, even in time of distress. Then after the 62 weeks, the Messiah will be cut off and have nothing, and the people of the Prince who is to come will destroy the city and the sanctuary. And its end will come with a flood. Even to the end there will be war. Desolations are determined. You might need a calculator to make sense of these numbers. I told you, the ride is going to be bumpy, but hold on to your seat. Together we will figure this out. 70 weeks have been decreed for Daniel's people and his holy city. My first comment on this phrase is that this prophecy relates to the Jews only and their holy city, which is Jerusalem. Second comment is on the word weeks. These are not the regular 7-day week we go by in our calendars. The original word translated into English, weeks, is the Hebrew word shabuim, which literally means sevens. So this text literally means 77s have been decreed for the Jews and for their city Jerusalem. 6 things were listed that must happen before the 77s were completed. Most of the 6 listed in the text had not happened yet, thus the 70 weeks were not completed. Verse 25 reads, "So you ought to know and discern that from the issuing of a decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince, there will be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. It will be built again." 7 weeks followed by 62 weeks make a total of 69 weeks. From the issuing of a decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem, 69 weeks will pass and the Messiah the Prince will come. It's easier for us now to gain insight on this prophecy because we can look back into history and find a documented decree to rebuild Jerusalem was issued by the Persian king Artaxerxes in the year 445 BC, and the city was rebuilt. 69 weeks had passed since, and a very significant event took place at the city gates of Jerusalem. Hundreds of thousands of people traveled long distances to Jerusalem for the upcoming celebration of the Jewish Passover. Multitudes greeted Jesus, Messiah the Prince, riding on a donkey in his triumphant entrance into the city. The people were shouting, "Save us, our King," placing their outer garments and palm branches on his path. This event dated approximately year 29 AD. Looking back at this time frame between the decree and the triumphant entrance of the Messiah, the Prince, we know that these events did not happen in hours, days, or 7-day week, for that matter. So it had to be 69 times 7 years, each week representing 7 years, which equal 483 years out of 490 years total. Then, after the 69 weeks, 7 plus 62, the Messiah will be cut off and have nothing. I didn't mention yet the word Messiah is a Hebrew word which literally means the anointed one. You see, the Jews anointed their kings with oil before they crowned them. So Messiah is the anointed one yet to be crowned as king. This prophecy, though, stated that Messiah will be cut off and have nothing. Just a few days after the triumphant entrance into Jerusalem, many witnessed and 4 of Jesus' followers wrote down the exact accounts of what took place. The Messiah was crowned with a crown of thorns, bitten and sentenced to die the most shameful death known to mankind, the crucifixion. It was a form of torture invented by the Persians and perfected by the Romans. It was meant to inflict the greatest amount of pain for the longest amount of time while humiliating and shaming the victim. That which at first appeared as total defeat turned out to be the greatest victory in the history of the world. He has risen. Verse 26. And the people of the prince who is to come will destroy the city and the sanctuary, and its end will come with a flood. Even to the end there will be war. Desolations are determined. Again, we know from history that a Roman general by the name of Titus destroyed Jerusalem and the temple of worship in 70 AD. By the way, you've just learned who the fourth and last earthly kingdom on Nebuchadnezzar's statue was. The legs of iron is the Roman Empire. I know what you might be thinking. There must be another kingdom because Rome had been conquered a long time ago. You're right. There is no one superpower ruling over the whole earth at this present age, but there will be. Remember the vision? This fourth kingdom was different from the rest. Messiah the Prince was cut off, just as it was prophesied. 69 sevens, making up 483 years, had passed. They are gone. It's history. But remember, it was a 70-week vision. Where did the last week go? This is where I want you to really focus because the last week, the 70th week, did not follow the 69th right away, as strange as it may sound. Messiah the Prince was cut off by the hands of the Romans. They destroyed the temple and the city, and that is when the clock for this Jewish 70-week prophecy stopped. What they valued the most was taken away from them by the hands of the Romans. When the prince of this people, the Romans, when he comes, that's when the final week of this prophecy, the final 7 years, will start. Rome was not, and Rome is coming again. A revived Roman Empire, a confederation of 10 leaders united to form a global government, the feet and 10 toes made of iron mixed with clay, the head of the fourth beast with 10 horns, and the little horn that had eyes like a man and a mouth uttering great boasts is yet to come. Verse 27. And he will make a firm covenant with the many for 1 week, but in the middle of the week he will put a stop to sacrifice and grain offering, and on the wing of abominations will come one who makes desolate, even until a complete destruction. One that is decreed is poured out on the one who makes desolate. You see, this king that is yet to come is a very bad guy. He is a wolf in sheep's clothing. He will make his appearance pretending to be all-loving and all-caring. The prophecy stated clearly he will make a firm covenant with the many for 1 week, that is, for 7 years, as we've already concluded. It will be a covenant of peace, reconciling two or multiple hostile parties who had been in enmity for a long time. When you think of Middle East, who comes to your mind? Who do you know that had been in hostility for many generations over a small piece of land? But something unexpected happens. That firm covenant with the many for 1 week is suddenly broken. But in the middle of the week, which makes 3.5 years, 7 divided by 2, he will put a stop to sacrifice and grain offering, and on the wing of abominations will come one who makes desolate, meaning he will cause horror. 3.5 years into this firm 7-year covenant of peace, this king will break his promise and show his true face, a face of a beast. He is the little horn that came out of the 10 horns on the 4th beast, dreadful and terrifying and extremely strong, that had large iron teeth. It devoured and crushed down and trampled down the remainder with its feet and toes made of iron mixed with clay. How can we be certain that it is him depicted in this 70-week prophecy? We can, by looking at the numbers and counting the years. When he breaks the firm covenant of peace in the middle of the 70th week, all he's got left is the latter 3.5 years to do as he pleases. This goes hand in hand with Daniel's vision of the 4th dreadful and terrifying beast. We discussed this vision in part 2 of this series. The 4th beast will be a 4th kingdom on the earth, which will be different from all the other kingdoms. Out of this kingdom 10 kings will arise, and another will arise after them. And he will be different from the previous ones, and he will subdue 3 kings. He will speak out against the Most High, and wear down the saints of the Highest One. And he will intend to make alterations in times and in law. And they, that is the saints, will be given into his hand for a time, times, and half a time. Did you hear that? The saints, referring to Daniel's own people, the Jews, will be given into his hand. This very king that will break the covenant in the middle of the term, they will be given into his hand for a time, times, and half a time. A time is 1 year time, plus 2 times, which is 2 years, plus half a time, which is 1/2 of 1 year. Sum it up and you have 3.5 years. It is so cool to know that the time of this king is limited. The day he will make a firm covenant with the many for 1 week, the clock for the Jewish 70-week prophecy starts ticking again. The day he breaks the covenant and puts a stop to sacrifice and grain offering will set a 3.5 years countdown. What happens next is really exciting, and we will look into that next time when we get together. I will also share with you one more credible text that will shed even more light on this event, so you can know for a fact that this will be the last 7 years in this king's reign. A very powerful ruler, though his destruction is determined. You are going to be amazed at the details and accuracy of what's been written long before it happened. Stay tuned. Don't quit.